Today I complete the repairs to White Mountain on my N-scale layout. Then I paint the mountain. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Roy Smith. Back in February, you saw me cut off the top of White Mountain. I wanted to make the top of the mountain removable so that I could access the helix under the mountain more easily. And in last Saturday's episode, I began to repair the damage I caused to the scenery when making the mountain top removable. Well, today I finished those repairs I started on last Saturday, and then I repaint the mountain with colors to match the prototype in southwestern Wyoming. Whoa, how did so many of you manage to squeeze into this train room? Well, I'm glad you showed up for today's show because I love to share the hobby of model railroading with you. In fact, that's what we do on this channel. I share the hobby of model railroading. So if you enjoy the hobby, be sure to subscribe and hit that little bell icon so that you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. Okay, as I said, we're going to finish the repairs to White Mountain and then paint the mountain. Here we go. This is what the mountain looked like at the end of last Saturday's episode. In that episode, I used shaper sheet and spackling paste to try to conceal the crack where the removable mountain sits on permanent scenery. Removing the mountain top gives me access to the helix under the mountain from above. This makes it a lot easier when fixing those catastrophic derailments that normally occur in the most inaccessible places on a layout, such as in helices. Here's the first thing I need to do today. Where the top of the mountain sits on permanent scenery, there's this little drop-off along the shaper sheet, and I need to fix this. I need to make the permanent scenery level with the removable part of the mountain. I'm using more shaper sheet to do this. I've already glued pieces of shaper sheet to the permanent side of the scenery and am now removing the foam nails, holding those pieces in place until the glue dried. Now, with the addition of the shaper sheet on the permanent side of the scenery, both sides of the cut are fairly even. I'm applying spackling paste on top of the shaper sheet. Spackling paste is one of my favorite scenery materials. Of course, I probably could have used Sculptamold to do this. I use an old X-Acto knife to make sure the cut between the removable scenery and the permanent scenery remains open. I also add texture to the spackling paste by stippling it with a paintbrush. Now the mountain itself is finished, so I can paint it when the spackling paste is dried. But before doing that, I have to repair some other areas around the mountain. These areas were damaged when I realigned the track around White Mountain so that 3 tracks now cross the lift-up section. I'm using a very unorthodox method to make these repairs. Masking tape covered with spackling paste. I've used this method successfully elsewhere on my layout. I begin by covering the holes in the scenery with masking tape. Then I apply spackling paste on top of the masking tape. Now I'm repairing this hole on the other side of White Mountain. I created this hole in the existing scenery when I decided to reroute the tracks across the lift-up. Again, I start by applying several layers of masking tape. This may look like a weak method of building scenery, and certainly there are other methods, but it works well for small areas of scenery not requiring a lot of support. Besides, it's quick and easy, it's stronger than it looks, and also quick and easy to remove if I decide to change the scenery, as I had to do when I decided to reroute the tracks across the lift-up. And now again, I am applying a coat of spackling paste on top of the masking tape. If the paste begins to stick to your finger instead of the tape, simply dip your finger in a cup of water and then continue to apply the paste. Once the paste is dried, you can apply a second coat if you want to, but I have never found this to be necessary. Okay, I finished applying the spackling paste to the damaged areas along the tracks. After the spackling paste dries, I can begin to paint the scenery. There's one small hole in the scenery that I'm not going to fix just yet. This is because I first want to reinstall the fascia that I removed back in February. But before I can reinstall the fascia, I first need to cut out this window in it. The window will allow me access to the front of the helix. I have this section and two other sections of fascia just like this one to reinstall on the front of the helix. Alright, I'm about ready to start painting. I'm going to use all 6 colors of Woodland Scenic's earth tone pigments. You can apply these pigments full strength if you want to, in which case they will turn out to be opaque on the scenery. But I'm going to do what I always do, and that is mix the pigments with water in these little cups and apply them to the scenery as washes. I always prefer to start with the darker colors first and work my way toward lighter colors, one color at a time. It's just the way I prefer to do it. The black works especially well in the crevices and under ledges to create what appears to be shadows and contrasts with the lighter colors that come later. I know this looks mottled right now, but bear with me. It will look a lot better as I continue to apply other colors. I guarantee it. Next comes Stone Gray. This color works well for rock outcroppings or rocky cliffs and in the crevices along with the black. Now, Raw Umber. This dark color works well for highlights, but I use it sparingly because the terrain in the area I'm modeling is light in color, not dark. As with all of the colors, I apply more water on top of the already diluted pigment to lighten it up even more as needed and to get all of the colors to blend together so that there isn't a sharp distinction where one color ends and the next begins. Okay, Burnt Umber. I like this color and use it a lot on my layout to mimic the red rock formations that are so common in the area I'm modeling. Like the preceding colors, I must apply water to it to tone it down and to blend it with the adjacent colors. Next, ochre yellow, which is also a great color for the terrain in the area I'm modeling. But it too must be toned down with water and, as you will see, with a wash of white. And the final color is white. I'm trying to replicate a layer of white sedimentary rock that you see on the prototype. Layers of white stone in the mountain explain why it is called White Mountain. You can see those white layers on the photographic backdrop of my layout. And there you have it, White Mountain. I probably will apply a very thin wash of white to the entire mountain in a few days to tone the colors down even more. I will do that because the landscape in the area I'm modeling is mostly colored very light tones of tan, yellow, and off-white as you see in this photo. Well, there you have it. I've reconstructed White Mountain. It looks pretty much the way it did back in February before I cut the top of it off. As always, I have tried to capture the feel of the prototype I'm modeling, and I hope I've been able to do that with White Mountain. I think painting it has helped to disguise the crack between the removable scenery and the permanent scenery that it sits on, at least to some extent. In next week's episode, I hope to begin planting vegetation on White Mountain. I'm not ready to go full blast with the vegetation yet, but I'm hoping that some vegetation will help to further hide that unsightly crack. And I hope you will join me when I do that next Saturday. Well, if you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to give it a thumbs up. And if you decide to give it a thumbs down, I hope you will tell me why in the comments section down below so that I can try to change whatever you didn't like. Remember, I try to upload 2 videos each week. First, Dispatch on Tuesday nights, in which I get to interact with you, and a layout update on Saturday mornings, in which I show you the progress I've been making on my layout. I'm hoping you will join me for both episodes each week. Of course, the best way to do that is to subscribe and hit that little bell icon so that you get notified of future uploads. I don't want you to miss any of them. Again, I hope to begin planting vegetation on White Mountain in next Saturday's episode. Until then, thanks for watching and happy railroading. I'm Roy Smith, and I will see you again very soon. Now, let's run a train.